Over the last couple of days, I've been working with Angela Hankins on our Earth Prize project, and the big steps we've made for the last couple of days is working on the financials bit. I'm going to upload some screenshots along with this, but basically what I've done is I should have made a reflection earlier because I could have made this into two reflections, but I didn't. Is I originally made our plan so that the original costs would be from lobbyists, but then when I did some more research and I found out that the European Union actually had a plan to give out money to projects, and it could be from public, it could be from member countries or companies that exist in those member countries. So I thought, okay, well, I could maybe do something like a partnership between three big rail companies who would stand to benefit from it, and build it out from there. And that helped me really figure out where all the funding would come from, and also it made me think, okay, I don't really need lobbyists anymore, I need researchers. So I found how much research scientists get paid, and then I factored that into the amount of cost we would need, and it ended up coming to around 300,000 to pay all of the people to make this plan for a year. And then I said, okay, so assuming we come up with a good enough thing, we get the funding. Actually, no, we had three research scientists and somebody who would work with the public to try and get support for the idea and get politicians on board and try to push towards this. And then I also started working on the post side of it, making the actual product. I really, really struggled there. I'm going to ask for Angela's help next week with it, because it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. Is you need to figure out all the different parts that move together and how they interact and how to make sure that you get the right amount of money. So I'm really struggling with that, but I'm going to ask Angela's help and I'll probably add in some more things. But we figured out that our plan is extremely reasonable. With the numbers we have right now, we're using less than 0.03% of the money that they've allocated for this, and this if done could be something that revolutionises the way rail is used in Europe. So we've been working on that. One thing that we've definitely been struggling with is that, we'd left it till after the break, which is pretty good because, we still have 17 days to upload this thing. But next Wednesday we've got to work on it. He's still got to finish out a couple other things, and then we've just got to edit and get it really good from there. He's working on using screenshots of different websites to explain why their solutions don't work and why ours would. However, one thing I'm worried about is, it would require a law change or a guideline that every single company has to give up their information to this system. And I don't really know how that would go along with it. Maybe we'd also need lobbyists, but at the moment I think we could afford to increase the cost because it would require around 100,000. Actually, I think even 80,000. Even from each company, and all of these companies that operate in the billions every year. So if they had the opportunity to say, hey, if you work with us, or if we work together on this to build this report and get this funding to build this system, you could stand to gain so much, because you would get increased ridership on networks, and you may be able to start competing with KLM on some of KLM and Air France and other SkyTeam members on their routes, especially short haul routes. So I've googled the three biggest rail companies: Deutsche Bahn, of course, a French one and an Italian one, because the French one would be very good for transiting between, because I imagine it would be quite a big hub. Germany, also quite a big hub. People like to travel in that Germany. And Italy, because people would want to be able to travel down to Italy, and I needed to target the biggest companies, so this would take the biggest impact from them. Of course, we're still working on this, but those were basically what we've been working on so far. The financials bit has been a project in and of itself. I've put more effort into this one Excel document that's only 4 lines long than I have in any other part of this project. But we're really hoping us being able to break down our cost and show them exactly where we're coming from, as well as because we're allowed to upload 3 supporting documents. So Angelo's got his one, I've got my Excel document, because we think we need to be able to stand out. Another thing we thought of was possibly integrating in systems for more accessibility for disabled people, because I've heard a lot of stories of people, or on the internet, I've heard a lot of stories of people who are disabled saying, my wheelchair gets lost when I travel by air, and I was like, well, you don't have to leave it with someone when you travel by train. You just go in it. And then we'd find ways to, of course, integrate it into the system, tell all the companies, basically make it easier for the user, and that would mean a big consumer group and a very reliable one too. Because it would also give us amazing, it would come with good press, and I feel like that's a very important thing we should consider, because if you see like, okay, we've specifically tailored this so disabled people can use, or people who use wheelchairs, who use wheelchairs specifically, or other mobility aids, don't have to give it into an airline. They just use it as they're travelling, and we build it into the systems. That way we make sure that all of the trains that they are on are accessible, and we also make sure that we deal with all of the rail companies and make sure that if they have any special systems in place that we need to use, those are booked in. So that way, that would also, because when you do that, you can get incredibly good press because you're doing something really good, as well as, really good brand image, which would be really helpful for this sort of project.